This is the Hollywood Outsider, an award-winning weekly entertainment podcast. And on this particular episode, we're reviewing I.S.S, Cult Killer, and Netflix's American Nightmare. Let's get on with the show. Hi, my name's Aaron Peterson. I am your host. John Davenport will be on here momentarily. Troy Heinrichs and Amanda Sink have nothing to offer for this particular episode. And what I mean by that is we're doing something different this year, or we're trying something different. We have heard from a lot of listeners about movie reviews. They either wish that they were broken out separately because they are worried about listening to the regular episode because they don't want to be spoiled about something, even though we try very, very hard to avoid all spoilers at all costs. Or they just don't want to know about a movie that they haven't decided if they're going to see during the regular episode, and they just want it on a separate post so that they can just listen to that and make that decision whenever they feel it's appropriate. Hey, we've wanted to try it for a couple of years, and this year we decided, you know what, we're going to give it a go. Now, we're not going to have broken out episodes every time because sometimes there aren't enough movies to warrant it. I don't want to release any podcast that's shorter than, like, say, 20 minutes because I don't know if that's necessarily worth your time. But it also affords us the ability for each person to review movies a little faster, get it out to you a little quicker, and also do it on their own time. And the way that everyone's time is working these days, it would be nice if more people could contribute in that respect. So we're trying this out. We'll see how it works. I hope it can continue if it works well and you guys like it. It doesn't matter if we like it, as long as you guys like it. So for this particular episode, we're reviewing 3 films. I.S.S, Cult Killer with John Davenport. He saw that one. And finally, Netflix's American Nightmare. Oh, that one's terrifying, but I'll get to that when I get to that. Before we get into it, though, I do want to mention you can always find our new episodes at thehollywoodoutsiders.com or wherever your favorite podcast feed is. I believe we should be on YouTube Music this week because Google Podcasts is closing, so you have to switch your podcast to YouTube Music, whatever. So if you're a Google Podcast user, then you can flip it there, I believe, this week at some point. You know how podcasts work, right? You're listening to this. You know how it works. So be sure to subscribe. Okay. I.S.S. That stands for International Space Station, just in case you haven't seen Armageddon. Now, this is the first movie we're discussing out of the gate, and it's written by Nick Shafir and directed by Gabrielle Copperthwaite. Stars Ariana DeBose, Chris Messina, John Gallagher Jr., and a whole host of others. But this revolves around some astronauts, United States astronauts and Russian astronauts, who serve in the International Space Station. They basically they're scientists sent there to do science-y things, right? To observe, to report, to conduct experiments of different sorts, those sorts of things. But it's the one place, it seems, where Americans and Russians can come together and agree to disagree. They try to make the best of their lives. And that's shown in the opening scenes. In the opening scenes, as Ariana DeBose, her character, arrives at the space station, Dr. Kira Foster. She's us. She's the outside voice brought into this scenario, right? And what we find are the American scientists led by Chris Messina's Gordon Barrett are working well with Masha Waskova's Veronica Vetrov and the rest of the Russian scientists. Like, they're getting along. They're having a great time. They're celebrating. They're having a wonderful event of sorts. Like, this is, even though they're stuck on top of the world, literally on top of the world, and there are so many opposing dynamics on the ground. Like, U.S. and Russia are obviously tension-filled for various reasons, as we all know. Up there, they're just people. They're just human beings. They're just surviving. They're just living the human condition. That's all that's going on. So, you know that there has to be a wrench in this program, right? You understand that there has to be something that changes. Well, they have this beautiful view in the International Space Station, which observes the Earth as a whole. It's amazing. I always wonder, that glass, you can't make a windshield that doesn't get a crack if a rock touches it, but you can make glass that withstands space and atmosphere and air pressure and da-da-da. What? Someone get on that. Make my Kia not have a crack every time. And that's a whole other topic. Okay. Tired of replacing windshields, man. Cracks. So As they're observing Earth and they are together and they are bonding, they notice hotspots just popping up all over the globe. Very quickly, they realize nuclear war has taken place. Very quickly. It is understandable to ascertain that it's possible in this day and age. There is so much tension between our countries, not necessarily our people. And what that leads to is everyone is panicked, everyone is frustrated, and then the Americans receive a message stating very clearly the ISS has been deemed a very pivotal capture point, essentially. It's essential to the war. Capture it, take control of it by any means necessary. By any means necessary. And the Americans assume the Russians have the same orders. Therefore, the rest of the film becomes this back and forth of who's going to go further. Who's going to do whatever it takes to take control of the International Space Station for country, for duty, for honor. Now, the film is very tension-filled. I do think it does an admirable job keeping us, rooting for different characters on both sides. I really respected that. At least there was an effort. I mean, yes, you're going to have people that are dedicated to their country and their orders, and you're going to have other people that say, I do not want to hurt or murder a friend over something I can't even get details about. It's very Crimson Tide in that respect, where the orders are muddy, murky. We don't get a full context of what does that mean by any means necessary. I mean, that's a pretty broad statement. Should I kill everyone on board? Do I just contain them? Do I restrain them? Do we need them as collateral? Like, what does that mean? And we don't really have the full context of what those orders are. So it's the back and forth. It's playing with each other and trying to understand and ascertain how far we should be going. And different people have different measurements of what that entails. And it's led by Ariana DeBose, like I said, who is a wonderful actress. She's an Oscar-winning actress, and she does everything she can with the script. The movie moves too fast, and I can't believe I'm saying that in this day and age. It's a gripe of mine, I guess. The movie moves too fast. If you're going to have this particular plot, this is ripe with drama. Like, this could be a fantastic film with this concept. I love this concept, and I love slow burn character pieces where you have a concept pitting characters against each other and trying to figure out exactly what does that mean? Where do we go? What are we doing? It doesn't flesh it out. It's just a cat and mouse thriller. And don't get me wrong, I've got nothing against cat and mouse thrillers. For what it is, this is an enjoyable watch. And I have a personal version of reviews, which is that I don't like to ever review films outside of what they are. Because too often critics do that, right? They take a movie, well, it should have done this and it should have done that, and that's why it's not good. No, that's not what a movie should be. It's whatever the movie's trying to be that you should be reviewing. So I am reviewing the movie based on what it is. And it is a cat and mouse thriller with that backdrop. I'm simply stating that I think if you would have fleshed it out and I do believe the way that the movie's delivered, it should have been fleshed out more because it doesn't really give us any context of what it all means. It's really vague. And I understand we're living through these characters' eyes, but they're trying to use what's happening on the ground as fuel, and we don't really get enough information to flesh that out. The characters are very basic. One likes vodka too much. One is having feelings for another one on board. It's very basic. So in terms of overall script, it could have used a fleshing out. It is a solid cat and mouse thriller. The tight pace does help fuel the tension, keep it moving. But unfortunately, there's a couple pieces. I won't spoil anything. We try not to do spoilers here. There are a couple pieces, very broad. A character that shouldn't be there is there, and for what purpose? There's really no purpose for them to be there. It's basically ancillary and strictly for plot reasons, and I don't like when something happens in a film for plot reasons, so that's a negative. And I do love exactly how it was shot, because how it was shot gave you the feeling that you are actually in space with them, the microgravity situation, because there's a lack of gravity, so therefore you have to basically float everywhere you go. You have to sleep in this environment, how you sleep in this environment. They really treat this with reverence and care, and that really adds to the immersion as you're in this cat and mouse thriller. So I love that. Love that. A couple of plot points, like I said, really aren't sharp, and therefore becomes a little too Blumhouse for me. little too manufactured and carefree. But the environment, the staging, the setup, I mean, how it's shot is beautifully done. They really suck you into what it's like to live up there as an astronaut. And then as the tensions go, I think this is something that could possibly happen. And that's really just nerve-wracking as you think about it. Because as you're watching, you're like, oh my God, that could actually happen up there. And I can't imagine how you would escape that. And rather than an alien on board, you have people that you used to trust on board. And Ariana DeBose is the best actor I could think of to capture this. She wears everything on her face, and she does it so tactfully and under the wire. You know, she's not showcasing. She's not overindulging. She's very, very nuanced with her facial tics and whatnot, and really does a wonderful job in this. Like I said, just a few plot points that really, so the script is the bigger problem. So in terms of performances, I give this a 7. In terms of production, I give it a 6. I think there should have been a little bit more pacing and fleshing out and with the script. So the script is unfortunately about a 5. So if $10 full price for admission, I give it $6. I think it's an enjoyable enough watch. It's just nothing that's going to stand with you through the test of time. You're not going to be watching this over and over and over for 10 years, like Armageddon, which was scientifically factual. We all know that. Now, that is I.S.S. Now let's move into Cult Killer, and that's going to be from John Davenport. Take it away, John.
Hey guys, it's John. Just bringing you a quick drop in for a review on a little movie that dropped over the weekend called Cult Killer. It is brought to you by director John Keyes, who was a producer on several movies like Chick Fight and Becky. Also, it stars the ever awesome Alice Eve and Shelley Hennig and Antonio Banderas. The story of the movie is kind of simple. You got a private detective, Antonio Banderas, who has taken on a protégé in the form of Alice Eve, and he has showed her the ropes and how to be a great private detective. Alice Eve takes up the reins to find out who the killer is. Oddly enough, she ends up finding herself in an alliance with the killer to solve a series of other murders that have been taking place in this town, Irish town, for a little while now. The movie is fun. Well, actually, fun might be a wrong way to describe it. The movie's interesting. It has a really dark, deep undertones to it. It feels like I said before, Jennifer 8 is what I kept on coming to mind the most, where it's kind of got this dark and broody sense to it. And as far as the acting goes, Alice Eve's character, who is just amazing. I think that she is widely underused in Hollywood. Shelley Hennig is a little bit of an interesting outlier. You might know her from things like Teen Wolf, and she was recently in the Netflix show Obliterated, which is that fun, campy TV spy thing that happened with what happens when you have a group of CIA agents who get drunk and then have to save the world. It's an interesting dichotomy between the two characters, whereas one is really serious and the other one's kind of playful and weird. It sort of lands, and it lands okay. But overall, my gripes with this movie have nothing to do with the acting, because the acting is pretty stellar from everyone involved. My gripes really have to do with the editing, as they seem to mess with the pace of the movie here and there, and the story could have used a little bit of tweaking. It seems like characters abandoned their drive somewhere through the third act, and it doesn't seem to add up entirely, although maybe it's just because I don't understand the bond that people seem to create. But overall, I thought this was a good movie. It's really worth a sit. If you have to wait for it to come out in streaming, maybe wait till then. But otherwise, I did enjoy it. And if $10 full price of admission, I gave Cult Killer a 4.5.
Okay. Well, over on Netflix, just recently was released American Nightmare. Oh my God. So if you saw The Tindler Swindler, that was directed by Bernadette Higgins and Felicity Morris as well. And they are back to do a 3-part docuseries. Man, on what happened to Denise Huskins and Aaron Quinn. So in March of 2015, Aaron Quinn, this young man, had been dating this woman, Denise Huskins. Now, here's the situation, right? So they had gotten together the night before to go over an issue because Aaron Quinn was still having feelings for Alexandria, and he was sending her some messages. And he was doing some sketchy shit. So what happens is they have a conversation. They have some drinks. They go to bed. The next morning, Aaron Quinn calls 911. He says Denise was stolen in the night. She was kidnapped in the night. What happened? The 911 operator says, well, someone came into the house. They pushed us face down into a bed, tied our hands behind our back, and then said that they were taking her. They thought they were taking Andrea, his ex, but it turns out it's Denise, so they're going to take her instead. According to Aaron, he has a gun. There's a lot of strobing lights. There's a noise. There's a pre-recorded voice. It's terrifying. It sounds like the most outrageous thing you've ever heard. And it happened during the night, so why didn't you call earlier, Aaron Quinn? Well, he says he was drugged. He was forced to drink this concoction that knocked him out, and he just woke up, and he's groggy, and he was told, hey, if you do anything, we got a camera in the corner of the room watching you, and if you don't do what we say, if you try to call the police, she's dead. If you don't give us money, 15 grand, she's dead. So he tried to play that safe for a while, and then he realized he didn't believe the kidnappers and called the police finally. So you'd think, wow, this is going to be a case of how they captured this woman, how the police jumped out, sought after this kidnapper, tried to save this woman's life. Nope. Wow. If anything, you're going to learn from this docuseries what I constantly preach. Don't talk to cops. Tell them exactly what they need to know if someone's in danger. But man, as soon as it feels like, I don't think they're listening to me anymore, don't talk to cops. Lawyer up. Find out what's going on. I mean, if anybody's watched enough true crime, you know this, right? Well, Aaron Quinn apparently did not know enough true crime. This poor guy. So anyway, or is he a poor guy? I don't know. I'm not going to tell you. It's a wild story. It's a wild story. But I will tell you, this demonstrates perfectly what people believe is an incompetence and a blindsiding for law enforcement to where they get stuck on one person and don't even look. They don't even look at another possibility. They don't even investigate another possibility. And then you have conflicts of interest like you wouldn't believe. You've got law enforcement that refuse to even investigate this as a kidnapping because the story's so unbelievable. It can't be true. What if it is? What if it is? So what we learned throughout this 3-part series is the Tally-Ho Police Department, they suck. And Dublin Police Department, which you come to know, they're kind of awesome. Kind of awesome. So there are good cops out there. Absolutely. Just particularly this one police department and the FBI, not so great. Not so great. It's a wild story. I didn't know this case. There's also interviews with Henry Lee, who's one of the reporters that covered the case, and many other people. It is fascinating. I like true crime, but I also am one of those people where if you're going to do multiple episodes, please make it riveting from start to finish. Because so many times I am watching a case like this and it's 5 episodes or 6 episodes. And I'm like, man, we could have done this in 2 or 3. Why are we still talking about this? Just get to, and I'll jump to the end. I have done it so many times. Shame on me. I know, right? But I don't need that much detail. I just need to know the facts of the case. Let's go. And this one, I think, does a wonderful job of going, here's the setup. Here's what kind of happened. And here's the fallout. That's what each episode kind of works its way at. And you're going to change your view of what's going on. Was this couple in on it? Was Denise just orchestrating this to keep Aaron? There's so many things that run through your brain as you're watching it. And then you get the final reveal and you're like, oh, snap. And you might feel a little bad about yourself. I don't know. But it's a great series to watch. I highly recommend it. I don't think Netflix has done one this riveting in quite some time. I watched all 3 episodes back to back to back. Normally I would break them up because how much true crime do you need? How much crime do you need before you start going, man, I'm really obsessed with other people's misery. I was obsessed with not their misery, but just finding out what happened in the story. Like, where did this go? Why did this happen? And I wish I could, because I don't want to ruin your adventure, but I have so many thoughts about this particular case now that I finalized it. You will too. So if you are a true crime fan, do not miss this one. I highly recommend it. I cannot recommend it enough. It's called American Nightmare. It's on Netflix right now. It was number 1 when I looked yesterday. I mean, the thing just came out. So the fact that it's already number 1 tells you that people are riveted. This is a good one. This is a really, really good one. And it's a very, very tragic, sad case. And also a perfect example of the problem with coming to assumptions early, to just blindness, just absolute blind justice. that is a problem we have in this country. And I've seen it over and over. And if you watch any true crime, you know it's there all the time. Whenever people say, well, he's definitely guilty. Is he? Because I've seen a lot of times where they just want to railroad somebody to get somebody, locked up for it. Hey, I'm not saying, like, I'm a firm believer in law enforcement. I know we need law enforcement. We just need it to be better sometimes. And in this case, it was not handled the way it should till we get to Dublin. So that's all I'm going to say about that. American Nightmare, $10 is the full price of admission. I give that one $8. It's fully riveting. Already making a case for one of the best shows of the year. I mean, anytime you have true crime where you can't put it down and you don't hear Keith Morrison's voice, because let's face it, he's got dulcet tones. Like if he was doing this review, you would love it. Yeah, that's it. American Nightmare, please check it out. And that's going to do it for this particular review episode. Try to keep these short. We're just covering the movies or TV shows that we're talking about, and that's it. And then the regular episode, no review fluff, because you already had it. It's going to be its own thing. It's going to flow. It's going to be magical. But I will leave you with a joke. Why did the frog cross the road? Because it made him happy. That's all I got. All right, that's going to do it. Thanks for listening. Remember, the next time you go to a theater, buy popcorn. I'm so ashamed that I told that joke.